today's video, I'm going to show you how to carve a little ghost holding a pumpkin. There's a few different designs you can do with him. You could have just a regular swoop come down to the side. You can give him a little base and carve out some additional like waves. You can paint the base. So you got options here. You can also make him in whatever size you want. This guy's 3 inches. Made from a 1x1. This guy was made from a 1.5 inch by a 1.5 inch block. He's about 4 inches tall. And this guy was made from a 2x2 inch block, and he's about 5.5 inches tall was the starting size. So I am going to make, in this video as an example, 1x1, but you can make whatever size you like. They are fun. All right, we got a few lines to draw on first. So we're going to divide each face of our block into fourths. I'll do my best to give these instructions as regards to dimensions and whatnot, no matter what size block you're using. So I try not to say, you know, 1/2 inch here, 1/4 inch there, whatnot. I try to give it relative to the size of the block you are using. That way you don't have to measure. It doesn't really matter. But first thing we gotta do is divide the faces of each side in about fourths. And we're gonna have a few lines to draw here, so bear with me just a little bit as we get prepped. They will help us in the long run. Okay. This guy's 1x1 by about 3 inches long. I think he's a little shy. Yeah, he's a little shy because of the saw, but that's all right. Pick what's going to be your front and your back. I'm going to do, this will be my front, this will be my back, or something like that. And we are going to carve down to that first line that we just made. Make sure you got your glove on. Well, I guess if you don't have your glove on, it's up to you. I didn't carve with a glove for a long time, but decided it's a cheap insurance policy. And it doesn't stop everything. I have got myself through the glove, so, you know. Could have been worse, though, without it, I'm sure. Okay. Now that we have those carved off, we are going to draw another line that's about halfway up your block, okay? We're going to get that all the way around. If you go into the middle, it's fine. It's no big deal. Actually, this is I'm going to make this my bottom. So when you have your bottom and your top divided, see I missed halfway just a little bit, you can even tell. It's all right, it's a whittle. The top half, whatever's going to be your top, divide that into thirds, or about thirds. So again, we're whittling. It's okay if it's not exact. And I'm just going to do that on the edges here. It doesn't need to go all the way in. I mean, you could do into the middle one if you want. But it doesn't have to go all the way across. Just try to make sure wherever you put it, you also get that on the other side. And this one we can go all the way across. Apologies if that was confusing. This one you want all the way across. This one doesn't have to be all the way across. That one you want all the way across. My bad. So what's going to happen here is pick your front and your back. And then this is going to be my front. So we're going to draw an arc, like a half circle, that starts here, peaks here, and ends here. Okay, so start, peak, end. That's why we needed that one to go all the way across. Apologies, there is a fly buzzing around that I can't seem to get, so if you hear that, I apologize. It's very annoying. And we're going to do that on the back side as well. Kind of carve up like that. Okay, as you guessed it, that's probably, that's the top of his head. This part, we need to go down just a little bit and go up and kind of make these like big ovals. So it'll go down just a little bit. You can almost follow that curve all the way down if you really wanted to. And take care of that little corner there. Make these big ovals on both sides. Right now your front and back probably look the same. That's okay. It doesn't really change until later. So we need then to divide this spot up here in half. And that's going to give us our separation for our pumpkin stem versus the rest of the pumpkin. And if you want to, you don't have to do this part, but if you want to draw across the top, these lines here, to give you kind of a reference of what the middle is of the top for your pumpkin stem, you can do that too, or you can just eyeball it. Okay, so now that we've drawn a lot of lines, let's get carving. First thing I'm going to do is going to put a stop cut in here, right in the middle, carve up to that to get some separation. That'll be the top of our ghost head. And I'm going to go all the way across to where we put that arm. We're going to do that all the way across. I'm going to do that on both sides. We can start our chip cut here. We're going to do more of this later, but we can start that. Okay, and we do it on the front and the back. Today I'm using the OCCT tools 1 1/4 inch whittler, I believe is what it's called. Fairly new knife to me. I've only had it a few days, carved a few things with it. It's nice. No, it's getting the job done. Not an ad, by the way, just sometimes people ask what I'm using, so that's what I'm using. Now that we have the basis of the top of our head separating from the pumpkin, we're going to do a little more roughing out. And this is where you need to know what is your front, what is your back. So this is my front. And we're going to ever so slightly knife angled. We're going to do a V-cut, but I'm angling down this way to separate the arms. Oh, and actually, that was one thing we didn't do. We didn't draw our lines from the bottom. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either have the big base at the bottom, which if you do that, all you do is, you draw a line. Something like this. Again, not an exact measurement, just however thick you want the base to be. Draw a line around, and then from this corner right here, we just connect them. Because we're going to remove that. If you don't want the base, and you want more of this look, connect it all the way to the corner, and you'll sweep up that way. You'll see what I mean. You do pretty much the same thing, it just changes your starting point, is really all you're doing. But for the sake of this video, we'll have the base, that way people can see how you do it, I'm going to do both sides, we do it that way. So now that we have this angle, we've now designated a front and a back because the angle up indicates the front. We can also put our line down his arm to start to separate his arm from his head. Same thing both sides. Line straight down, kind of relief cut it out. However you got to do that. Sometimes a pairing cut's going to work better, depending if you're right-handed or left-handed. And we can do that on the back as well. We'll have a little more work to do on the back, but we'll do that in a later step. So line down, just follow that line down. And relief cut our way. Separate the arm. Arms may not turn out perfectly symmetrical. That's okay. If you want them to, you know, go ahead and measure and all that fun stuff, but that's all right. Okay, we got our rough out now for the head, the bases of the arms, and the backside. A lot of this whittle is actually the work of the pumpkin. So we're going to rough out our pumpkin, and we do that first by separating the pumpkin from his arms. So we had a stop cut there at the top of his arms. Carve up, remove that. Stop cut at the top of the arm, carve down to it, remove that wood. Do that on both sides. Now he just looks like he's carrying a bucket. What I usually do is we're going to relief cut around to get this square, and from that square, we will make our stem. This is one of the more time-consuming processes, and if you're doing it with a guy this size, highly recommend you use a bandsaw or something, because that took forever to cut out with a knife. So if you're doing it on a 2" by 2", highly recommend you use a bandsaw. Entirely up to you, but we're gonna put the we're gonna put the stop cut in, carve down to it, and we're gonna do that all the way around. So I might edit this part out because it's really repetitive, and you don't need to see me doing this the whole time, but that's what we're doing. Just stop cut this line, in, down, in, down. If you need to take a chunk off the top to make it easier for you, do that. Or you can take a bandsaw to a 1 by 1. I guess it's totally up to you, but we're getting down to that square. That's what we're doing here. All right, so we're almost down to this little square. It's okay if you leave it a little larger or a little smaller. It's all right. So now we're going to make our pumpkin stem out of this. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either round the top off first of that end grain and then carve away your base, or vice versa. I'm going to carve away the end grain on top first. That way I can kind of see what I'm working with as a rounded object. But I don't really think there's a right or wrong way to do this. We're going to round over the top, and then we're going to take away those sharp edges of the square. Because if you want something to be round, attack those sharp edges. And eventually it will either be or appear round. And now you've got options of what you want to do with this. You can make the stem look like it's leaning by carving away this part. You can try to make it look like it's like plumed at the top by carving away the bottom. Totally up to you. I'm just gonna try to carve it into a little bit more of a mound or a little point. I think that's what I'm gonna do this time. Yeah. That's not so bad. Maybe carve one side just a little bit more so it's like pointed. Carve away the base just a tad bit. Kind of undercut it. Yeah, it kind of looks like we're pointed that way now. Okay, so now we need to separate the rest of his hands from the pumpkin. To put a stop cut down, carve down to it. Kind of do that on both sides. The back side, I'm actually going to go straight up and down first because we're going to do a little more work on the back of his arm than we do on the front of his arm. So I'm just going to go straight down with that one to begin with. Could feel the knife dig in there. It didn't like that grain. Yep, there it went. It tore out. That's all right. That's all right. Okay. So now we have the rough profile of our pumpkin. I'm now going to attack this edge all the way around to round it down, and I'm going to try to get it rounded about halfway. That's kind of my goal. It doesn't have to be exactly halfway, but that's my goal. I mean, pumpkins aren't like perfectly symmetrical anyway, so they're not perfectly round. There's some funny looking pumpkins out there that I've seen, so some are tall, some are kind of shorter and stockier. And we're just going to keep attacking that edge right there. As I go, I create another edge, another hard edge, and we're just going to keep attacking that hard edge until it looks round. Very similar to what we did for the stem, to round off the stem. Just attack that hard edge. We can do that in the middle too, to get that rounded look in the middle. We will round the bottom of the pumpkin in a minute. There we go, top of our pumpkin is round. Okay, next I am going to round over his hands just a little bit. And we need to take the back of his hands and just ever so slightly carve them off. So the back of his arms, just ever so slightly carve towards the front, because that gives the indication that he's holding it kind of forward, if that makes sense. So just ever so slightly going that way. You can kind of see it here. Just going forward a little bit. That's what we're doing. Just a little bit, doesn't need a lot. And then you can round that off a little bit more, as well as create more separation from his arm and the pumpkin if you need to. Remember, in whittling and wood carving, depth is our friends. It helps create textures. It helps create the imagery that we're looking for. And so we're going to do quite a bit of that in just a second on the corners of where the pumpkin, the arm, and the ghost head all meet. We're going to be doing some chip cuts there, and if we can get those at a nice depth, it really helps. But now I'm going to round off the bottom part of the pumpkin. Might have to deepen our stop cuts here where it meets, and if so, that's okay. That helps us a little bit. It is okay if that's what you need to do. That's going to be it's almost like a V cut, really, once we start rounding that pumpkin. It's almost closer to a V cut right there. And we can continue to round it, get that separation. Make sure we get our pencil marks off. There we go. Pumpkin, for the most part, is done. We might do a little more cleanup at the base in a minute, but that's okay. Now, we're going to work on those chip cuts that I talked about. So we want to get a 3-corner cut here. So right along the edge of where that corner meets with the arm, the head, and the pumpkin. Right there. Nice deep stop cut on the top where the pumpkin and the head meet. And then from the angle going up to it, slide your knife up, get that chip cut out. you might have to round things a little more around it. That's okay. But when we get depth in those corners, it's going to help a lot. And we're going to do the same thing on the back. So if you need to, go up the side if you need to. Go in. This one I definitely will need to go in the side. So right in that corner. Slide up. Get that shit cut. I want better separation from the pumpkin head. There we go. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Get a little more separation from his arms from the body. Just do that with some stop cuts. So stop cut there. Carve up to it. We're going to start rounding this off. Okay. Depending on if the grain of your piece of wood is going to play nice, is going to change how a lot of the rest of the carving is going to go. Because we're going to try to sweep up from the bottom up and start removing some material from the face. While we do this, we're also trying to round over the face. So we sweep up to about where his face will be, and then we need to go back down. So sweep up, round down. Starting at the bottom, so don't go past this line if you're doing the little stand. If you're doing this guy, you can start at the very bottom because you don't have the stand. So sweep up. And then we're going to go down. You don't have to go down every single time. That's okay. So sweep up, sweep up. We got a little tear out. That's okay. We'll fix that in a minute. Sweep up, sweep up, sweep up. We're trying to round this guy kind of a round shape while we do that. And we're going to do the same thing on the back. So I'm actually going to round over this top part first. And then we're going to sweep up, sweep up. We're rounding over these angles as we do this. Ooh, we got a big tear out there. That's okay. That's all right. We'll fix it. If you get a tear out, you might have to go from the other direction for a little bit, which is a little more difficult to do. But you can still get that sweep and then meet in the middle. Another thing for a tear out is if you go at it from an angle, you can kind of clean it up sometimes. I'm gonna have to do that on mine. So go at it from an angle if you can. A little bit of an angle. A little bit of an angle. And just try to take, off those layers that tore when you go at it from an angle. Don't try to do a huge sweep. Like that. We had one over here too, so I'm gonna go at an angle and just try to get that off. And as you can see, it's gonna take a sharp knife to do that, but hopefully you have a sharp knife. Also try to go from the opposite side, as we said, and then meet in the middle. Do that. Okay. I'm going to try to do some deeper cuts towards the base of the pumpkin to try to get a better rounded look. It's not quite as round as I want it to be. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm going at a pretty steep angle down towards the base of the pumpkin to try to give the illusion of his head being rounder. That's what I'm doing here. And doing that in the corners, see that looks really square? Doing that in the corners will help as well. Rounding those off. Now we're gonna round over his arms. We're gonna take care of the harsh angles on his arms. So very, very carefully, we're just kind of shaving that off. You know, we're taking care of harsh angles. His arms don't have a ton of meat on them, so be careful not to take off too much. We do want to round over this edge that we created. We do want to round this over here, and it'll help clean it up. So these hard 90-degree angles, we want to take care of those, but just a little bit at a time. And round down the bottom a little bit. Just ever so slightly. Trying to clean up some of these little stringies I got. I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but that's what I'm doing there. I'm going to cause a little more separation there from like the back of his arm. So just trying to give it a little bit of more natural for a ghost look, I guess. I don't know what a natural ghost looks like. But just trying to round it. There you go. That's his arm. Now we're going to draw the face. You can draw whatever face you want to, I suppose. I like drawing, you know, happy faces. That way he looks super excited that he found this pumpkin. I mean, that's, I think that's funny. But you can really draw whatever face you want on it. For the face that I draw big, I call them church window eyes or arch eyes. So I draw big arching eyes that look pretty happy. And in my experience, it's better to draw on an eye bigger than you think you need, because after you carve it, it's usually not the same size. It's usually a little smaller than what you were planning on. So those are the eyes. I'm gonna carve those out real quick before we do the mouth. So I put stop cuts at the bottom here. And then it's almost straight in, but like, I don't know, just a tidbit of an angle. The angle would be towards the outside, but if it's easier for you just to go straight in, just go straight in. Straight in, not quite at the arch, and down to meet that stop cut. Same thing there. And we do want it to be deep. Remember, depth is our friend. If you need to double check that your stop cut met at the corner, go ahead. Now this part is the little tricky part, so be careful if this is new to you, and if you need to practice on a different piece, do it. But I usually start kind of halfway in the middle and then meet that line I started here. So about in the middle, still trying to be deep, still controlling your knife though, and with a smooth swoop down, meet it. And same thing here. You kind of take that other side and then smooth swoop down to meet that other cut. Smooth swoop down. So if you need to practice on another piece, do that. Remember, you're holding a very sharp knife. That is a little bit of a tricky thing to do if you're not used to it, so just be careful there. How we get these out? Well, we're going to do chip cuts in the corners. You've already got 2 of the cuts there, so now you just need to go down and finish it out. See, no, this guy didn't let go. There we go. Chip cut in the corner, chip cut in the corners. Turn them around and get the other one. Okay. And now I start where that chip cut ended and just very carefully and controlled move my way up to the stop cut that I created. Kind of a similar concept on both sides. Yeah. Just kind of undercutting what you've already up. See, I didn't get deep enough there and I went too far. So I will fix that. You might have that happen too, so that's okay. That's why your stop cuts need to be deep. And I'll have to deepen this one to fix that. But that's okay. So I fixed that by just going a little deeper on all my cuts for that eye and just rounding it out. I might have to go a little deeper still, but that's okay. So again, that's why you need to be careful when you're doing that, but also you want it to be deep when you do that. And I'll try to deepen this one too so they match a little bit. When you paint it, you can't really tell because if you're painting it black, then it just looks black. But sometimes you can see the edges, and if the edges aren't, you know, somewhat symmetrical, it looks a little odd. Okay, so we got his eyes, and his mouth is very similar. It's like one giant eye, just the other direction. So drawing his mouth, something like that, and you can do whatever mouth you want. I've got some pumpkins over here. They've got some funny facial expressions. You could do, you know, something like that, or a kind of a crooked smirky smile, or, you know, you can look at pumpkin faces, and you could easily put that on this guy. Actually, I mean, you could put a face on the pumpkin too if you wanted to, either carved or painted. Entirely up to you. I kind of like him holding just a neutral pumpkin. All right, so same thing. Stop cut on the bottom. This one, they're not as tall, so the side stop cut isn't quite there, but follow the same process. About halfway, very carefully come down, meet that, and carefully put your knife in there and meet that one too. You do chip cuts in the corners. Chip cut is probably my favorite cut. It took me so long to figure that out, to do a chip cut. I don't know why. Like now it's a very simple concept to me, but when I was first learning wood carving and whittling, to do a chip cut was just, my brain could not figure it out. It could not understand what was happening and how that worked. But eventually, we got there, and now it's probably my favorite. One of my favorite things is a chip cut. One, it's satisfying when you get a really nice smooth chip cut. It's satisfying, but it also aids in providing depth, and depth is just so important to adding life to your carving, really, because it takes something from being a more 2D plane to a 3D plane, and chip cuts help that so much. The other thing that really adds life to carvings is painting them. So I don't know if you've ever painted your carvings, but I did not paint my carvings for a long time, and then I was encouraged to do so, and now I paint a lot of my carvings. Okay, so we got his face. Almost done. This part, if you're just doing the regular base, you can skip this part because we're going to be doing the base, and you can skip ahead towards finishing out the pumpkin with the details. But if you're doing the base, here's how we do that. You can carve that off if you want to. It's entirely up to you if you need more of a flat plane. Entirely up to you, but we're going to do a stop cut all the way around this line. Okay? All the way around. And if you need to remove some stuff that way too, that's fine. Just stop cut here. Probably remove some of this. Might just be a little hefty down there. It's all right. All right, but now you're probably thinking, Aaron, how far do I go with the stop cut? Well, the answer is really as far as you want to. I'd probably go close to, I don't know. I don't like to give exact measurements, like I said, but something close to 1/8 of an inch down, probably for this size, just because you need it to be enough to notice. So that's really what it is. It needs to be enough that you notice it. So we're going to do something like that. And if you want to add the wave, I don't think I'm going to do it on this one, but I'll show you how I would do it. You want to add the wave. I usually start down here. That's a down part. And by wave, I mean these little waves down at the bottom. I would start down here because that's a down. And then you would go just up a little bit and then down a little bit. Then up and then down. I try to stay down on the edges, but you don't have to. And then you go all the way around like that. And then you would add your new stop cut line moves to there. So you stop cut there and you carve up to it. And when you do that, this guy's not fully painted yet. And when you do that, you're removing that groove. Then you just add a V-cut at the points that go up. So I would add a V-cut here, 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 and here. And that's what creates that depth. So I'm not going to do that on this guy, but that's how you would do that. Experiment if you want to, but that's how you do that. Sorry. After we added the base, need a little more shaping to do in the bottom. We'll do that in a minute. Now, to add the final touches to the pumpkin, we're going to draw a line going this way, it goes straight through and goes this way. So we're divided in fourths, and then we're going to divide it into eighths. So that's about fourths, give or take. And that's our line for eighths. And there are two main ways to get these lines in, and I'll show you both of them. One is way easier than the other. The first one is your knife. You're going to do a V-cut. So how do we do that? Well, I usually put a guiding line. You don't have to, but I usually put a guiding line for my V-cuts in the middle. And then just carve away both sides like a V. And you got your V-cut. And you do that all the way down the sides. I think that does provide a very nice depth. Looks nice. If you're doing bigger ones, you might even, like this size, and the 2-inch size for sure, you can go down and round off those edges right there, and that creates more depth. The other thing you can do, which if you have the tool, which is way faster, is take a V tool here. This is a 70-degree V tool. I think it's a 6mm 70-degree V tool. And you go just down the lines. This was the texture tool tip, I guess, that I picked up from Johnny Layton, and he's a cool dude. So if you haven't checked out his videos, be sure you do. Thank you, Johnny, for the awesome technique here to be able to add texture to pumpkins. Really appreciate it. Johnny's a cool guy. But yeah, V-tool, way faster, not required, just a little faster. And I do think they both look good. I've done pumpkins both ways, with the V-tools as well as just carving it with a knife. But for the sake of this video, you're going to carve this out with a knife, or carve this out with a V-tool, not carve it out with a knife. But it can be done. You do not have to have a V-tool. They are helpful though. There we go. All right, our pumpkin's mostly done. I'm just gonna clean up a little bit of these pencil marks. So when I do that, I just kind of shave away the pencil marks. I found that a knife is a very effective eraser for pencil marks. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to clean up any hard angles, anything I think is just a little bit too much, like down at the bottom there. It just seemed like there was a little bit too much still left. So cleaning up these pencil marks. Maybe because I didn't do the swoop here, I might actually like bring these sides in just a little bit more and then continue to shave off just those. Every time I see that new angle or that's created, just kind of shave it off just ever so slightly, ever so gently, and it'll create a nice round side. Just like that. And it's kind of a satisfying thing to do as well, I'm not gonna lie. All right, so I cleaned up some of the pencil marks and rounded those edges just a little bit more. But I usually wood burn the edges and do some painting. This guy's not painted. You can even double stack the pumpkin if you want to, if you have a taller piece of basswood. But overall, that's our ghost holding the pumpkin. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.